So Taika Waititi confirms that Thor 5 is in the works with a villain more powerful than Thor Ragnarok's Hela. First of all, round of applause for Cate Blanchett's Hela. I personally believe that Hela is one of the most underrated villains in the MCU history. Cate Blanchett was brilliant. She was scary, fun. She was unrecognizable. The way she moved, the way she acted, it's like, whoa, now she is a bad bee. I don't even want to mess with this chick. And I wish they would bring back Killer, but that's not going to happen. I think if I rank my top Marvel villains of all time, it'd probably be Killmonger, Thanos, um, William Dafoe's Green Goblin, Michael Keaton's Vulture, and probably Loki. The only reason I got Loki at 5, because Loki technically should be maybe 2, but Loki kind of bounces between villains. It's kind of hard. It's hard to hate Loki. Like, he's a villain, but he's such a playful villain. So back to Taika Waititi. So anybody who saw Thor: Love and Thunder basically cursed out Taika Waititi because that was probably the worst movie of the Thor series. And the thing about the Thor series was it was like Thor made a whole bunch of great films, but for you to make the worst film, that's pretty bad. And this is crazy because Taika Waititi directed the best Thor film, which was Ragnarok. So how do you go from the best Thor film in Ragnarok to the worst film in Love and Thunder? This is what I think. I think Ragnarok had a pretty solid script. It had a pretty solid script. You had really good actors. You had Jeff Goldblum was in it, Cate Blanchett, and Tom Hiddleston was still there as Loki. That's an amazing crew of people. And you still had Sir Anthony Hopkins as Thor's father. So there was a lot of heavy hitters in that film, which made that film work. So when they did improv and things like that, it actually worked. The problem was the script for Love and Thunder was not that strong. A lot of those heavy hitter actors were not there. They made Thor too comical, and it just didn't work. And then after the film, after a while after the film was out, I think like earlier this year maybe, Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor, basically said, yeah, he wants Thor to kind of go back to where he was before. It's like I think Hemsworth likes telling jokes or I think he kind of liked being comical Thor a little bit, but I think he really missed what he had in those early Thor movies. And to be honest, I went back to watch the first Thor movie, and Kenneth Branagh as director was brilliant because that film was very Shakespearean. The dynamic between Loki, Thor, and their father. It was a Shakespearean. It wasn't even a superhero movie. It was just a Shakespearean superhero movie. It was brilliant. So what do we do with Taika Waititi, right? Evidently, maybe Taika Waititi is back to direct. We don't know that. That has not been confirmed. A lot of people on the tweets, on the X tweets, don't want him back, which just kind of sucks, right? Because Taika Waititi, I like Taika Waititi. He's always fun for an interview. I actually think he's a really good filmmaker. He has a lot of energy. I think he's actually a good dude, right? Filmmaking wise, but not for Thor. So if I was saying like, okay, we're going to make a Thor 5, who do we get as director? First and foremost, I would go to the Russo brothers. Now, it's not going to happen. I think the Russo brothers are pretty much done with Marvel. Just because they made so many Marvel films, I think they're burnt out. But if you saw what they did, Captain America: Winter Soldier, to me, might still be the best Marvel movie. It's debatable sometimes, but it's hard to top Winter Soldier. And then the Russo brothers did that film. Then they did Captain America: Civil Wars, and that was equally as amazing. They did the 2 last adventure films, but most importantly, they developed this relationship with Chris Hemsworth. If you watch Extraction 1 and 2, you'll see like how good Hemsworth is as an actor in Extraction 1 and 2, which you can see on Netflix. So I would get the Russo brothers, but that won't happen. And then the second person, I would reach back to Kenneth Branagh and say, hey, I know it's been a while since you directed Thor, and the Thor character is actually a little bit different than it used to be. But can you kind of come back? Can you come back and give us some of that gravitas that we're missing? And to be honest, I think Chris Hemsworth would really enjoy working with Kenneth Branagh again. And this time, because at first he was a younger actor, now he's more seasoned. And I think the combination of Branagh and a more seasoned Hemsworth would be a dynamic duo, but I don't think that's going to happen. So Taika Waititi, if you are the director, watch what you did in Thor 3 Ragnarok, and also watch the first Thor movie. And most importantly, talk to Chris Hemsworth. He was not happy with the last project. If you want Chris Hemsworth back playing Thor, work with him. Develop a script that makes sense. Give some less jokes, more drama. Give some depth to his character. I think if you guys tap into that magic of Thor 1 and 3, I think you'll find something. Also, let's talk about Marvel for a minute. I mentioned how Loki was missing. And I really do think Hemsworth missed Tom Hiddleston. Now, Tom Hiddleston was making his show that's streaming on Disney Plus. Loki won season 1, so he couldn't be in the film. But to be honest, even when you watch Loki season 1, even when you're watching that film, you feel like, man, there's something missing. And what's missing is that relationship that he had with Hemsworth. Those two are brilliant actors together. But that's the one thing that's the one aspect in comic book films that's always overlooked. The two male theme dynamic. The thing that made Black Panther great was a relationship between T'Challa and Killmonger, or the lack of relationship. But the interaction between those two guys drove Black Panther. And as much as I love Angela Bassett, and I thought that she should have won that Oscar this past year over Jamie Lee Curtis, Wakanda Forever just wasn't the same because it didn't have T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, because he passed away, rest in peace, but also didn't have Michael B. Jordan in the full film. That relationship is what drove that film. But the two male dynamic is the same thing that drove Loki and Thor. It's the same thing when you see Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. in those Spider-Man movies. There is something to two guys, no matter if they're brothers or a mentor-mentee relationship, whatever it is, there's something that's special in there. And I think these comic book people, directors, producers, whomever, want to push more females in strong roles, which is totally fine. You can have strong females as character. I just said how brilliant Cate Blanchett was as Hela. You can still have strong female characters, but don't get rid of the two male dynamic that really propels these films. First of all, the bulk of your audience is still going to be guys. But I'm telling Marvel, I'm telling DC, stop pushing out males. These characters are really good. Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. had great chemistry together. Unfortunately, of the death of Chadwick Boseman, we never got a second going with Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther. But you still have a chance for Thor 5 to bring back Loki. I don't know what's going to happen in season 2 of Loki, but if there's any possibility of bringing back Loki in Thor 5 and bring him along and adding him with Chris Hemsworth, I'm telling you, you have a shot, even with Taika Waititi back as director.